So first up, Turmoil.
Sure. So on Turmoil, we're rocking Strafology, Hey Trey, Carry, Enders, Smartest, Beast Shen, and Lou Money going up against OSU Overwatch Scarlet, who's represented by Respawn, Poi Poi Poi, still a great name.
It's great.
BM Cool, Prosody, Deli, Mighty Peon, and Samuel, which we remarked earlier. That's a good get. That's a real good get. Getting that Samuel lockdown as a handle is a really good get on his part.
The way that these tournaments are going to work, we've got basically 12 matches today, minimum of 3 rounds per team. There's going to be 4 to 5 maps each round. That 5th round will be if there is a tie. In the final rounds, where we got the final championship round, there is the possibility for map bans.
Yes. Even if the games go into that, if it's a 3-0, we will still have that 4th game.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind.
Because it's fun.
Because it is fun.
So, round 1, match 1, we've got
Hollywood coming out. We've got Respawn rocking Zarya, Poi Poi. Looks like slightly modified goats pushing the Zarya, but it is the clone match. It is Zarya, Rhine, Diva, Brigitte, Lucio, and Zen. So we're going against the clone match, and we're about to get in it right now.
Very strange that we have teams literally the exact same makeup.
Yes.
So I think it's going to be down to who's the best, right?
Yeah. All right. Respawn holding steady with that Zarya, firing those bubbles out as they're making this big opening push, and it's a good opening. They didn't hold that choke as much as you expect them to. You'd think that they'd hold it a little bit more towards that choke, but they're actually staying back on point to keep the push.
It is nice to see that they are all working in concert. I was worried when that Diva jumped up that they were going to go off on their own.
Yes. But no, with the good counter charge from who? Brigitte. Oh, One Trick. Sorry. He was not on a roster.
No need to apologize.
I know. And a good clean swipe.
Very nice rebuffing.
From
Ohio State.
We're slightly biased.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
In case we didn't mention, Game Arena is located in Hilliard, Ohio, just about 8 miles from the Ohio State University.
Now, Turmoil's got that ultimate economy going up on them with 3, now going into 4 ults with Lou Money's pushing his. So this could be a really big opening push on them as they drop the Graviton Surge and start making that large push, but they're just
looks like
unable
it was
to
rebuffed. It was rebuffed.
They're unable to get that clean kill. Zarya really, trying to lock that in, but if Reinhardt gets his shield up, there's nothing really too much you can do about it.
That Diva dropping in behind, little swoop over top.
Yeah, and Turmoil's trying to keep them off the point, but it's been a slow fight, and with that, Turmoil gets once again pushed to the backside as OSU is doing a good job of keeping them just on edge.
I do like the chase, that they're following them back to spawn to keep them
you just gotta
pressured.
You got to keep that pressure on, especially when you're trying to generate those ults. And again, we've got Turmoil with 1 ult, with that Diva ult ready up, but the Reinhardt hammer down is coming. But Poi Poi has his Transcendence almost ready, so he's going to be trying to hold that out for that hammer fall. I bet money on it.
Well, if he's still holding out, he's a little late.
Yeah, it seems like that. Well, and there's the pop, and little odd timing for it, but the Diva ult unable to land any takedowns. There's the Graviton Surge, and they're managed to get one takeout, but honestly, OSU is still able to keep themselves upright, and all I can say is I don't know if anything can really get past this defense. They are keeping it so tight. They're keeping everything so collapsed in. And
Smartest is swapped out to a Hanzo.
Yes.
Trying to bring in a little more DPS, probably.
I wonder if they're shooting for that more of that long distance, trying to get that ult pop. Seeing if they can drag and shot their way onto the point and use that as a push. But
I don't know if it's going to be enough to crack this egg.
I don't know.
Yeah, if you look at that front line, it's just about stationary with OSU. It moves very nice and slowly.
But still unable to get too much of a damage on that. Did clear out the enemy Diva. But again,
OSU's Ryan's got that.
Yeah, Turmoil just really struggling to get past this point.
This is not looking good for Turmoil in this first map.
And I will say they're organized and they're timing out those ultimates in sync, but for everything they throw, OSU just has a good, strong counter to it. And there's the hammer fall. They're able to land 3 knockdowns with it. This is the big push, but there goes the dragon shot to try and clear that point. Very nice timing on that one. But again, man, OSU just able to keep on point. Lucio dropping that sound blast, and there it is.
I don't think I support what Turmoil's Ryan is doing, running in like that. He's not getting the support from the rest of his team that he really needs if he's going to be charging forward like that.
But on that final push, he's really got to make it. And in the long run of it, it's all about timing. If he can just get on that point and stay on it long enough, he has the potential. They had that ults ready. They were readying up those ults, and they were getting closer and closer to it. And if they could just have kept on that point for a few more seconds and delayed that round end, there was potential. There's always potential. You got to remember that even when the points in overtime, you always have that potential for that last-minute cap. It just takes a good push. But I will say this: Turmoil just couldn't land the solid kills every time they got hit, and no mercy to Rez. They still weren't getting the drops they needed, which really just speaks to the quality of the healers that OSU is putting out. So I'm genuinely interested to see if this is just how the counter matches are going, or if this is. I want to see how OSU works on the offense now.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how OSU does. Wondering if their defense is their defense is better than their offense.
And I will say it is. It's whenever you talk about the meta, it always gets interesting because they always talk about the Reaper buffs, the armor nerfs, all of this is going to changing the meta. But what we're seeing in this match is again, not really. Goat still being the prominent force as far as movement goes, laying down that Atlanta spray as they get ready for the opening of the second round.
Well, and somewhat regardless of what your makeup is, you have to have the team strategy, the interpersonal comms. We don't really have any listen in on that right now.
No, but I would be interested to hear.
Yeah, but based upon how the Turmoil is spacing themselves out, well, then again, this time they look like they're more bunched up.
But Diva going up top, the Diva's doing their own solo fights, pulling away from that major push. OSU keeping their distance, and again, it's just about managing those resources and managing, keeping your distance space, especially when you got 2 spread healers the way they do. Now, I will mention that Turmoil did switch to an Ana as opposed to a Zen, and I got to wonder if that was in part to try and sleep counter your tanks, but I think it's a little too late, as there goes the first point to OSU.
All right, that was rough. I was excited for Turmoil there, but because I saw the Diva for Turmoil was actually giving it to the Diva from...
She made the dive, but I think it was an overcompensation. I think, in all honesty, look, Diva's strength is getting that high ground.
Yep.
Let's see this play of the game real quick before I continue, because... And speaking of the meta real quick, everyone says, with all of the nerfs that have come to Brigitte ever since she first came up, everyone says, she's no longer as viable, and Mighty Peon just proved them wrong, because in all honesty, she is still able to stun, she is still able to put out damage and simultaneously heal, and in all honesty, that's what you need. So that first map is going to OSU, moving on now to an assault at Horizon Lunar Colony.
Space.
There's actually a part of this map where you can get on space, and it's always fun. It's always a really fun time.
How do you get on space?
Well, okay, first of all, I had a mental vomit, and I said those words. And that's not the words I meant to say.
All right.
But there is actually an open port where you can access space. It's a very viable technique. Once you get onto this map, there's a choke point. There's a couple of strategic choke points, but the ability to kind of circumvent a lot of it, the potential damage, and get into space is fun. That being said, it's also fun to just jump really high.
So the gravity's actually reduced.
Yeah, it's really well designed. I'm not gonna lie. The only thing that I have always wanted is to separate and go wrecking ball, go outside, and I just wish I could get on top of the actual lunar colony.
So really, you need a little boop, is what you need.
I just need a boop. Actually, no, I just need to break the game. That's
okay.
But well, once again, we're going up into Horizon Lunar Colony. This is OSU versus Team Turmoil coming in soon. We're coming at you live from Game Arena
in Hilliard, Ohio.
While you do
15
your pitch,
minutes outside of downtown.
I'm going to do my tweet.
Oh, you're doing social media now?
I'm doing my social media now.
all right.
My timing is
well, y'all, if you want to check out Game Arena, go to Game Arena Co. Twitch.com. Although I guess if you don't know that and you're still getting this, I'm questioning if you're not an alien.
Yeah, I don't quite know how you got here if you didn't know where to go.
Congratulations on finding it. Otherwise, you can find us at Facebook, Game Arena, or Twitter, Game Arena, or Instagram, Game Arena.
Yes, I assume.
If you want to follow us, you've got our Twitter handles here. I'm Barry DeWhite Wiz.
And I'm Legends FH, that stands for hire. I won't do too much of my own plugging.
Yeah, that might be.
That might be a little shady.
Yeah. All righty. T-minus 35.
All right, we got Ohio State making the first advance against Team Turmoil, running that defense. And, you know, the interesting thing about this map is that first capture point can be so difficult to actually lock down. You've got that clear line of shot, and with a shield tank, I'd be interested to see if we apparently they are down one who went to the bathroom. The team's having some fun in chat. It's always good to see a little good sportsmanship between teams. But that first choke point, that first capture point, you can really hold well with a good shield tank. And there's what I expected to see. That Orisa, just gives that long range damage while also giving that that good shield buff. Although I do believe that I misspoke, as it seems OSU is actually on defense.
I believe they're on offense.
Nope, that's the defensive
they're on
point.
defense. Okay.
So, defense, they've got that Ashe. Ashe is that interesting pull to do that long-range damage with the Diva to counter, and they're setting up for the Bastion. I almost wonder if they're going to do the Treehouse, because they've got the Mercy to pocket the Bastion. They've got the Bastion to lay out that damage. Ashe is going to keep them distance and that long-range kind of pinpoint damage, while Brigitte's going to be that shield. I almost wonder if they're looking to Treehouse, which it looks like they have. They set up the Treehouse up top, and it shreds through Beast's shield almost immediately. They're getting... It seems like Turmoil's starting to try and make that push underground. They're not going for the top pass, making that shift around to the backside. Now, the only problem with that Bastion setup is he's so committed to that point that he's not able to drop back, and Turmoil is already on point capturing. They've got no one really to counter them. They can keep that fire, but they've already got their first tick down as Team OSU is trying to get their cap. But they allowed for so much of that capture. At this point, Turmoil can kind of just take their time, reset, but still keeping that pressure on as Zarya coming from behind, just dropping all of team. And as the respawn drops in to try and save the point, I fear it's going to be too little, too late, but no! He drops the Rhine. Now it's just Genji trying to take out respawn, and respawn goes down, and there goes point one. Now, you got to wonder if that was an overcommittal on their point, because they just had so much laid into that Treehouse setup, and you got to be able to switch that Bastion up.
I think they need to take a page out of the Codename Kids Next Door show. You got to move out of the Treehouse every once in a while to do your missions.
That is a deep cut.
That's a deep cut.
I think almost no one who has watched the show is old enough to know. All right. Team Turmoil moving into that second point and coming from that upper left point. Brig actually changing it up to a Winston to get that dive on them. They seem to be keeping the distance and forcing Turmoil back into place. Turmoil with now 2 going on 4 ults as they drop the Nano Blade, trying to clear that point, but it looks like they just aren't able to 100% deliver. They will force OSU off the point.
Yeah, that was a nice split that the Great Ape manufactured there a little bit ago, but it wasn't very effective.
No, it didn't seem to do as much as they needed to. And there's the second point, as Team Turmoil is able to capture. That was a good, clean. Now, I will say it feels like a different team. It was a good, clean round. They really had themselves well organized. It feels like that push was strategic. It felt like they knew what they're doing. And I almost wonder if that first round, that very first match in Hollywood, was just them trying to get a feel for their opponents.
I think it might have been. I think now that they've got their pace set, because they pushed it this time.
I mean, they got
really
a good, strong push. Part of that, though, we got to account for. Did OSU overcompensate? Did they over-apply to that treehouse setup?
I think almost definitely.
I don't think they were ready for that, just the slide underneath. And once you get on point there, it is a very difficult point to capture. And all Turmoil did was say, hey, cool, you don't want to defend this point. Now all we have to do is defend this point. And again, that is as I was talking about before the match began, that is a solid point to hold. The choke on that is very difficult, and a good shield tank can keep that up, and that's what we saw. And honestly, this is going to be an interesting match. I'm not going to lie. After that very first round, that very first map, I was interested to see what happened. But now with what we've seen out of Turmoil this match, I'm second doubting myself.
We got a McCree out this go around.
Right. Looks like they're pushing a lot of DPS in this. They're going with a 2-2-2 build. So I'm interested to see what the counter of this is versus a traditional GOATS. I'll be interested to see. I can only imagine that Ana is out there to try and sleep this build, but again, GOAT's just so reliable. It's so hard to take anybody out that I don't know if that McCree-Konzo combo is going to be enough to do that damage.
I think we're going to see if OSU is just really comfortable with the GOATs and if this is what they've trained with mostly.
And again, like GOATs is prepped to counter this, but there's no real shield burn on this team. So I'll be interested to see. And again, OSU just pushing around the outside. They're committing to that top point to try and dive as Turmoil jumps down onto the point. But again, it feels like so little damage is actually getting put out. And against GOATs, you've got to be able to isolate the individual and burn down. And I don't feel like Turmoil is being able to do that right now. As we drop Enders, Zarya's down.
Yeah, still not a major advantage
yet.
No, but
there's the point. I mean, this is the point. Turmoil just handing it over and setting up for that second point. And again, you got to give it up. GOATS is hard to kill. And although I will say Strafology switching to the Fair is an interesting choice, as GOATS lacks that long-range strength. There's no hit scan in GOATS. So far as a good choice for a counter, but I'll be interested to see as Beast charges in but is unable to land that pin.
It's a very unfortunate charge.
No, but Lou Money with the Mercy able to keep that damage boosted on that Zarya on Enders and putting out the damage enough to take down the Diva.
It pops her right out of the mech and smacks her down.
And Turmoil able to help keep that push off. Tank's pulling back now to regroup, reset. But I will say, Turmoil having that ult economy, and in all honesty, I don't know. It's really difficult. You've got 4 ults lined up, including 2 that can full-on clear a map. You've got the 1-2 combo of Ender's Zarya's Graviton Surge versus Hanzo's Dragon Strike. The Hammerfall, I mean, there's a lot of risk here for OSU pushing in, and they have burned a lot of ults. So they're coming in with 3 of their own, but I don't know if it's enough to take out now 5 ults.
We'll have to see if Turmoil stacks their ults in response or if they save them up.
I got to imagine that they're going to hold back, but there's the hammer down as Beast comes in and gets that pin down.
OSU's already burned 2 of theirs.
They're trying to make this push, and Turmoil just unable to hold that point. And there goes their Reinhardt, and the Dragon Strike is the last effort. But it's just too little too late, I fear, as the... Oh, but the Wrecking Ball coming in to save the point at the last moment, but unfortunately he's unable to keep that point locked in, and there's round 2. Turmoil up and out, unfortunately, as they got really just run through. It is a tight match, though. 5:48 remaining for Team Turmoil.
Yeah, 31 seconds.
Yeah.
It was a lot closer than the first round, I think.
It was, and it's interesting to see. And again, I wonder if that first round was just Team Turmoil trying to figure out what all to do against OSU. But again, if you notice, there's a lot more DPS now coming out of Turmoil. Both teams pushed a DPS, high-level DPS, going into the defense on that point. It's interesting to see, and I wonder if it was built to counter goats. But neither one seemed to really work, and neither one really seemed to hold them back. And again, it's just it's really interesting to see how these teams are faring against each other. It's a great opening match, I think, for this tournament.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of similar strategies. We're seeing a lot of different skill tier.
Right.
I think Turmoil's doing very well. It seems like their team comp is well put together. It seems like their strategy is decently put together. I am wondering, though, if maybe OSU is just a little more focused.
I got to wonder that too, but then you got to remember that treehouse, they just left themselves exposed to that cap.
Also
so you got to wonder, is it and you got to remember in Overwatch, it's those tiny mistakes. It's that little drop, that one moment, and we've seen a couple of those little moments, those bad hammer downs, those mistimed moments that really can throw people. But OSU going for that same sidewise push as they tank up and shield up with the Reinhardt. And now getting into that more counterpoint. Now, I will say, Turmoil Smartest has switched up to a Reaper. He's really trying to counter that Goats meta. And again, against this classic Goats, Smartest gets taken down first, which was smart on OSU's point. Take out that Reaper who can really just shred through your tanks. And Turmoil trying to keep on point, but it seems like OSU is just holding it down, keeping that point locked down, using the Lucio boop, using the rocket flail from Brigade, and there it is, that first point captured by OSU, and they're streaming right on. There is no slowdown for them. They know they have the advantage. They know that they were down some heroes, so this is the point. They're going to race to that point and try and hold it as long as they can, as Turmoil jumping down from the top ranks to try and move in.
I don't know if I support that. I think I would have liked to have seen Turmoil stay on that first point and try and contest it just a little bit more. Draw that timeout just a little bit more.
I got to wonder, I mean, point dropping as the Bob goes down to try and absorb much of that. But Bob is always going to keep that point as clear as he can. Focusing fire. Bob just gets pinned. There's a Graviton Surge. Just a hold. This is just a stall. There goes the boop from the Wrecking Ball, but it's unable to land too much damage as Reinhardt's shield takes the blunt of it. And in all honesty, you got to wonder, was that just a stall tactic? And it did not work.
I think it was a desperate tactic, and I don't think it worked.
I think that's exactly what it is. And OSU able to capture both points with still remaining 4 minutes on the clock. That's a lot of time. Now, that being said, though, Turmoil has 5 minutes, almost 5.5 minutes left to capture those 2 points. It's a lot of time, and we've seen them capture those points with less time than that. So I'm interested to see, are they going to, are they going to go classic
we
goats?
saw them capture that when OSU was stuck in their strategy.
And in all honesty, can OSU come back with enough flex and variety to throw off? Because I promise you, they're probably expecting the same thing. They're probably guessing for that Bastion, Shield, Mercy combo. So I'm interested to see exactly what's going to be happening when they get back into the field, and we should be getting back here soon.
So I was going to mention earlier, I think that's kind of what I'm a little excited to see, is I'm excited to see, as you were mentioning, what the weaknesses of these different teams are. Right now, a part of what I'm seeing as weaknesses for Turmoil is I don't think they have found their stride of what their team comp is going to be against OSU. OSU is stalwart in their tactics.
And they're trying things. I will give this to Turmoil. They're trying things.
They're
pulling in that Reaper. They've now switched up. Smartest has switched up to a Widowmaker to try and get that long-range kill. With the Ana, you've got 2 snipers out there. But again, 2 tanks, 3 DPS. Or, I'm sorry, 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 2 healers. Does the 2-2 combo work? That being said, OSU coming in with their own. They've got the 2-2 set up as well. So we're going to see. They're both changing it up. Neither of them have come into a fight with the same teams. And as we see, OSU fighting back Beast and Shay. And there's the kill on Beast and Shay as the D.Va makes that good pull.
I think that was a decent trade.
I think it was a fine trade, but honestly, I don't know. I will say it looks like OSU might be overextending slightly. D.Va really far out into that far field and just getting a free shots on her.
They're overextending, maybe, but they're keeping them further away from the point. And I think right now, Turmoil is maybe a little gun shy.
I think that's accurate. I think they're a little hesitant to rush in there full because, again, without that full, with only 2 tanks, it's a hard push. And the Zarya-Reinhardt combo is strong, but it's not necessarily the most versatile. You're kind of locked in versus, OSU with that D.Va. OSU with that D.Va. The D.Va's able to pull out more tricks necessarily than that Zarya-Reinhardt combo. And there goes Enders just getting dropped again. And OSU once again able to hold that point without really getting any touches. I mean, Turmoil never really even touched the point, and it felt like there was a lot of mid-lane combat that was happening, but no one was able to actually fully get on.
See, and that's what I was worried about. Is I think, like I said, Turmoil is a little gun shy, and I think they might be breaking down their team makeup a little bit and their team strategy. I think they're going a little more singular, individualistic strategy, and maybe that's not a great idea against such a strong team like OSU.
And again, Smart is trying to get those heads with a beautiful headshot to respawn. As there goes Winston dropping in to try and get that kill, but unable to lock it down as he gets pushed back onto the point, or off the point. Well, he's never on the point.
Oh, here we go. A little bit of push down those stairs, but only with 2 of their main liners.
And I will say, Turmoil's getting more of that push. They've got that. They've isolated a lot of the tanks, but they're not getting the kills they need. They're not getting the drops. Those tanks are still too live. And in all honesty, we've got matching ults coming up. Well, I say that until I notice that Ohio State's got 3 ults readied up versus the 1 with iCarry's nano boost. But in all honesty, I mean, it's at this point, OSU can almost just kind of sit back and really just make sure you use that ult economy as OSU drops the D.Va bomb. It doesn't manage to land any kills, but they're still able to just use it to push off the point, and that's the point. And there's Turmoil dropping the bomb.
Absolutely useless.
Completely hits nothing. And again, it's, at a certain point, it feels like enough of Turmoil is getting picked off one by one that OSU is able to just let them trickle all in after that point. And this is not a game where you can, people always say it's really hard to carry in Overwatch, and I think that's true. I don't think, they're letting them pick off their Widowmakers, they're letting them pick off their Genjis, and then Turmoil relying on the strength of their tanks against a full 6-man stack. It's a hard fight to win. As Turmoil starts to make a push up towards the stairs to try and get clear of those tanks.
It seemed like it was going to be a decent push there for a minute. Had a bit of an advantage for a second, but it was quickly rebuffed.
It seemed like they started to pull back. But now Turmoil on the point, holding it.
But with only 2 minutes left, I don't know if they can do it.
The second push is really important. You got to remember, your clock doesn't reset at this point. As Lucio dropping his ult, both of Lucio's firing off both of their sound blasts to try and keep the teams alive as long as they can. Again, trying to pull that stall. Poi dropping off with that nano boost to try and help his team. But in all honesty, I don't know that Turmoil can do it. I don't know. They've got 1 man on point just to try and stall, and Ender's coming in with the D.Va to try and get anything on point. But now OSU just pushing back. It almost feels like a captured point. It almost feels like they're just trying to shove them back into that spawn point.
Well, they didn't go much past where it seemed like Turmoil was actually stopping and holding their line from before. They pushed them right past those stairs and just held them there. And that seems to be where Turmoil is not only comfortable, but where they are retreating to every time, which is maybe not smart. With 60 seconds left on the clock, they've still only got about 55% on that first objective point. I don't think Turmoil has it in them.
I don't know either.
I think OSU has this locked down. We've got less than a minute left now.
Winston trying to just stall that point as long as possible, but I don't know that it's enough to make that push.
I think we're going to see the D.Va from Ohio State with a good flank here.
Yep. Although dropping the D.Va bomb is really nice timing as she's able to make that kill and really contest that point. Now chasing
really good
Turmoil down, really keeping that distance. And they are punishing Turmoil for any time that they start to overextend. You lose one player and all of a sudden that strategy that you had coming in just starts to crumble.
Yeah, they're capitalizing upon every advantage that they can find. Every little thing they are hammering down. Get it? Because, Reinhardt.
It's a good job. Dropping the nano boost on the Winston to try and get on that point again as he gets that Tesla cannon off, but it is dropped by Respawn, and now we're into the overtime. They've only got 2 on point. Can Turmoil, really capstone this? Ender's getting dropped, and there goes the clock.
And that's going to be it.
And that's going to be the match.
Wow. That was
intense. I mean, that was Turmoil making a really good push for it. Poi with the play of the game.
Not surprising.
Not surprising. As and as a healer, it's difficult to get those, but he's been just constantly doing all damage. And I remember he played Brig in the first in Hollywood, now playing Zen, and able to put out a lot of damage.
So let's get some shout-outs, because we got some shout-outs.
We did?
What's going on, Mikey Mojo? What's going on?
What's up?
Apparently I'm the favorite. He's calling me out,
That's
not
fine.
you. Chalba.
We're trying.
We're trying. We're trying.
We're working on it.
Can you tell that we're professionals?
Yeah.
Just, what's the word? Consummate professionals?
Consummate is a strong word for what we
A
are.
very strong word. For those of you in the chat, feel free to give us any little hints from what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Let us know if we're missing something.
Yeah, we are only 2 people, and
I mean, we're kind of more than that. We got another guy running the.
Yeah, but he's not able to
show.
yell at us and tell us things that we're saying wrong.
I mean, he could, but it would ruin the facade of this.
That's a good joke. That's my poi.
All right. Nuffle, that's good.
We'll give it to you,
That's
Nuffle.
good. I'm hoping that's a silent K, Nuffle.
So I will say, out of Turmoil, they're getting a couple of heavy hitters. Enders has been consistently putting up good tank work. I mean, between the Zarya and when it comes to the pushes and that Diva on that second point on Horizon, Enders has been able to put up a lot of work as a tank. I just wonder if they don't have the DPS to put them down. I mean, going into OSU, anytime you're going into GOATs, if you can't get that damage, it's really just a game of attrition, and they're not winning that fight. They're not outlasting them. And I wonder if it's a lack of the heals or a lack of the health, but anytime we see that DPS come in, you got to wonder, do they need more damage, or are they not isolating the targets? Those are the only 2 real good solutions for a GOATS comp, is isolation of that back line.
And that's really what's killing them. Is if you look, if we had instant replay, if you look at how the teams are spread out, OSU is just a bastion, a stalwart bastion.
God, that hurts.
Yeah, they stay together. Like I've said a couple times, they're just a wall.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, obviously when they were up in the treehouse, they were just a bundle of joy.
Right. And in that moment, it failed them. But you're right. Overall, that's the strength of GOATs.
And
you
they're
stay
not spreading
clustered,
out.
And you don't give the thing that they're not giving, which is why you saw that Winston play from Turmoil, is they were hoping to get into that back line. But OSU is just not giving them that opportunity. They're really locking in their healers, and their back line is safely guarded. So you gotta wonder, at this point, what even can Turmoil do to try and counteract that?
I think they need to regroup. I think they need to reconfirm not just what they're good at, because I think what they're good at is slightly more individualistic play. Whenever they've tried to do really good team comps, in that first round in Hollywood, they seemed to do okay. But as soon as they got split from their group, they just kind of fell apart.
And I got to wonder if it's, and again, we don't have access to their chats, so we can't hear what they're saying, but I gotta wonder, are they calling out those hits? Are they calling out their targeting? Because it feels like, everyone's spreading out, and even on that Hollywood map, you get 2 divas separate on point. That's a war of attrition. It's gonna go slow. Why weren't more people jumping on that attack? Why aren't you getting, do they need to isolate more? And in my honest opinion, yes. When it comes to GOATs, isolation and separation of healers and tanks is a big part of what makes that comp go down.
Yeah, there was a few times where they did a really good job, both OSU and Turmoil, of having one player jump into the fray, and they actually caused a split. Turmoil split OSU a few times, actually put a crevice in that wall. But what they didn't really capitalize on, and part of it is, one, like I said, OSU is just stalwart.
Yeah,
they are very practiced.
fast.
They're showing very good game. But what Turmoil didn't really capitalize on is once they've set that split in, they need to make a pincer on one half or shove more people in the back line. Have that splitting arrow actually shove behind and take out that back line.
And you gotta understand that, like, the Zarya Ryan comp, they're both control ults. They are both designed to stop the other party dead. But the problem being is Zarya's ult pulls everybody together, and that's all Goats wants. All Goats wants is, did you just burn your mouth?
No, it's cold coffee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Zarya's ults and Ender's, when he was dropping those ults, all he was doing was gathering Goats back together, and that's all they want to do. All they're doing is repositioning Goats into exactly what it wants. So you got to wonder, is Turmoil working with the wrong tank? They're not pulling out their diva as much. We saw it in that last match. They went Winston diva to try and get that dive comp, but you got to wonder, is it too little too late at that point? I mean, in all honesty, it looked like that first cap from Turmoil may have just been dumb luck.
I think it was. Like you're saying, their dive comp was great, but they didn't have a good follow-up to it.
And there was no secondary, and in all honesty, that was just an overcommittal on Ohio State's part to that plan, to that treehouse.
Well, let's see what they can do.
As we move on to the next map.
What's the rule? The underdog always wins, right? Let's hope for the underdog.
Turmoil moving in with, again, that variant on the Goats comp with that Hanzo DPS. I think they're keeping that DPS up just to try and clear the point. But they're trading bouts pretty well. No one has managed to drop yet. As there it goes, Lou Money and Strafology, both for Turmoil. Third drop is Beast drops as well. And OSU just getting a good straight clear. And that's just setting up for the beginning, as I can only imagine they're chasing down to the point. They're trying to force back. They're just going to hold choke.
They're
going to hold
shoving
spawn.
those Gophers back in their hole. And wow, that was amazing to watch Turmoil's Reinhardt just absolutely melt.
And Carry the T already having their very first ult ready up to go, as their nano boost is just waiting for it. Now at this point, OSU, if they can just hold back, they've captured the point.
So here's something that I'd love to see more from Turmoil's Reinhardt and a little bit more support from his team. He is not managing his barrier very well. I would love to see some more shield hopping to keep that thing up more often.
And you know, there's the Graviton Surge, there's the Diva Bomb, and there's the clear. That's a huge hit from OSU. That is a giant Diva Bomb that just taking out so many. That self-destruct is so powerful, especially when you team it up with that 1-2 hit of the Graviton Surge.
We call that the left and the right.
Turmoil taking some time to just poke from a distance, trying to get that ult. Ender's coming in. Ender's going to come in with a Diva self-destruct. Hanzo with Smartest with Hanzo coming in. We've now got 3 ults on the Turmoil team versus the 1 Brig rally from OSU. There's the hammer drop. It doesn't seem to get any kills, but the big Dragon Strike able to make at least push them onto point, now forcing Turmoil onto point. Poi downed. This is it. I think this is the beginning of it, as, oh, no, wait, but the huge charge from, I was so excited for that, and then it immediately died, and it made me seem like an idiot.
It's all right. We don't think you're an idiot.
I mean, it was a big charge. I'm not
It
gonna
was.
lie.
It was.
But then he immediately got smoked from behind.
I like seeing big, cool things.
I know. Turmoil now on point, holding point. They're just going to keep raining down that damage from above. I will say, when you said it the first time, I didn't really think too much into it. But Beast is dropping his shield an awful lot. And there goes the Graviton Surge. Beast holding it up to try and get around. But no, enemies drop, OSU was able to circle around, get the hit. There's a nice little wave from Brig. Big one trick. One trick.
That's what I was talking about. Is Beast? He needs to focus. He needs to work more on his shield management, because while he's dropping his shield a lot, how he can benefit himself doing that is actually just shield hopping.
Yeah.
So a little higher tier mechanism tech there.
But that being said, I will say, he's charging in. Odd time for a nano boost. I'm not quite sure. There goes the double ult as we get the hammer down.
Good zoning.
Good control on that end. But Poi able to drop that Transcendence and try and hold the point a little bit longer. It was a nice little stall technique, but it is not enough to keep Turmoil off the point.
These have been some really great pushes from Turmoil.
They've been doing some really, really stellar trading back and forth.
I think what's very unfortunate for them is for these big pushes, it seems like what's really getting them that push is using 2 ults to get that push, though. And I think that's not going to sustain them.
Yeah, and really it's about, part of this is just I worry that, OSU is landing those 1 ults and able to really capitalizing on them when they use them, as we just saw with Strafology dropping the Graviton Surge and then, and making that push. They weren't able to capitalize on it. Like, they burnt that ult, and they weren't able to get anything for it. And in all honesty, if you're not getting the capture from those ults, then they're just going to waste.
Still, good zoning management here.
Turmoil able to hold that point just a little bit, but the hammer goes down, dropping out. That's 2 clears for Brig on 1 trick. And this is a tight match. They're getting closer and closer as the overtime's starting to tick down. But again, OSU just able to make that final push. Enders diving in for one last hope, but unfortunately and just obliterated. That's completely unnecessary. But Ohio State able to once again capture that initial point.
I don't want to say anything too early, but that was a much better round.
It was
a
significantly
much better round.
And I will say, it feels like Turmoil's, again, we don't want to speak out of turn, but it feels like Turmoil's starting to get that push. They're starting to get that rhythm. We're seeing back and forth, which we haven't seen. Now, that being said, though, this is the first capture the flag point. This is the first time that there's been able to have that kind of back and forth. So you got to wonder, is it just map choice? Is it just what they're getting placed into? Is this where they're at their strongest?
Yeah, is it just a combination of really good luck and really good strategy, or really good, timing? Whereas, I think as we also mentioned, OSU was able to capitalize on much more minor advantages. They only had to use 1 ult to get a good push or to keep that advantage going, whereas it seems like Turmoil has to consistently put more and larger effort into keeping that advantage going.
And I will say, especially on this map, Busan is a big open map. There's a lot of open space for it, and if you can't cluster as well, maybe that's what's giving them the advantage. The wide open space is allowing to really negate a lot of what that GOATS comp can do. But again, neither of them running true GOATS, as Turmoil is going to get the first capture on this point. And I think that's the first cap that they've got. Well, there's only been 2 of these matches, but.
That's definitely their first biggest success in a little while. But I'm still concerned they had to take out half of OSU's team in order to lay that out. Whereas in the reverse, OSU only had to take out 1 or 2 players in order to press that advantage.
But they are pressed up, and they are ready. They're waiting for that charge. They're seeming still kind of outbroken. As 1 trick getting up on top, trying to get that aerial advantage, but I don't know. Turmoil's, it looks like Beast is starting to be much more wary of his shield drop as he's keeping it up longer. Ender's on point, fighting down that Brigitte, taking D.Va out of mech, Baby D.Va getting dropped, Winston getting dropped. All they got left is the Lucio, just a slow time, but they're not even going to do it. That was a good, solid hold for Turmoil, and this feels like a brand new team.
This does. Whoa. Look at that. Holy crap. I'm just sitting here slack-jawed.
I know, and it legitimately feels like a 180-degree switch.
Do we have like new players come in under the same title? Whoa!
Is this their Smurf account?
Yeah. Have they been holding back up until this point, playing with reverse controls?
OSU going to the lower push to try and get in. Winston diving behind to try and get that flank, taking out the flank. Lucio dropping the sound barrier.
Wow! Pieces of the back and front line getting taken out.
Yep. But again, the tank's still staying alive, and again, you can really see it. Turmoil really working on that health management. They're really trying to keep their tanks alive, which again, going against OSU, that's important. They can shred through DPS really easily, so keeping those tanks alive, extremely important. Baby D.Va out of mech. Currently, they've got Beast on point with a Lucio backing, but here comes the Zenyatta with the Transcendence to try and hold out. Brig, they've got 3 healers on point. OSU is pushing with 3 healers only to try and keep that overtime from going. They're stalling out that clock. In comes the Winston to try and dive on point with D.Va. They're taking down Beast, but Beast with the big hammer, able to drop both D.Va and Brigitte, trying to keep Mighty Peon from staying alive. D.Va bomb gets blocked off by the Winston bubble. Ender's making one last stitch, but here it comes. It looks like it couldn't keep it up. Turmoil couldn't keep that point. Despite all of the advantages they've had for this whole round, they get all the way to 99, and they just can't keep it, and there it is. Ohio State making that capture just when we thought that match was going to end. They really came out of nowhere to capture that point.
So this brings up the really good question then. Was that then just luck from Turmoil those first 2 times, or was this luck from OSU on this push?
Well, if we look at the comp, though, OSU switched. They were running with Wrecking Ball up front, but now they're pushing that Diva Winston, which is a really good dive comp. And if we look at what Turmoil has on their high line, they're rocking 2 tanks, but they've got a very squishy backline with the Reaper, or the McCree, Widowmaker, Lucio build. It's a very squishy backline. They're not doing a ton of spread healing. They're doing isolated healing through their Ana, but spread healing through their Lucio. You got to wonder, is that the factor? Is that switch the factor? As Strafology dropping his ult to try and capture the point.
I really like seeing that separation.
Strafology. Oh.
Oh.
We apologize. I did not know Strafology was a girl.
How could we know? Actually, I think it was listed.
Was it?
I think it's underneath the names. Oh, no.
Oh, no. We're those people.
Oh, we just can't
it is.
read.
We're so sorry.
Oh,
Strafology.
we missed it.
Oh, God. That was an important moment.
Turmoil.
Yeah, Turmoil.
There we go.
We're good at what we do. We're very, very good at it. And anyone who chat who says differently is 100% accurate. 100% accurate. Turmoil coming back, that was a really strong push. They held that point all the way to the 99% and really only faltered for what, 15, 20% before they were able to push back against OSU and make that cap. And this does feel like a different team.
It does.
And you got to say, it's the little changes, and that's all it took is those little tweaks. Smartest coming in with Reaper. They've got a different build now. They're running 3 tanks, 2 heals, and a single DPS versus OSU. Looks like we're rocking goats. They're going back to what they know. They're working about what's been going for them.
So now I think we'll get to see if that wasn't just Turmoil's map.
And I'll be interested to see how Smartest does with this Reaper build. They keep talking about it ever since the new patch update. Is Reaper the GOAT's killer? We're about to find out right now.
Looks pretty even keel right now.
They're keeping their distances. Smartest not
Turmoil
able to get quite away as he
damage.
escapes in Phantom mode.
Yeah, a lot of not very good and take between the teams. Looks like mostly Turmoil's taking all the hits.
At this point, they seem to be just poking. As Lou Money dropping the sound barrier, I carry the T dropping the nano boost, but
and there's the wipe.
It's just not enough to keep on. Strafology pulling back and unfortunately getting chased down by OSU. Man, it's those little tweaks. It's the little moments. It's when you're spread out just a little too thin, and OSU is capitalizing on that. Every time Turmoil spreads just a little too thin, OSU is seeing that opportunity and pinning down their squishies. And unfortunately, with that build, they're really keeping that distance wide and open. As Turmoil coming in for the next push. And there's little trades back and forth. That's all they're doing. They're not. They're. Is OSU peeling too much? I gotta wonder. They're chasing them down. At this point, I was wondering if this was a choice by Turmoil to let them try and pull them off point, but no, this is OSU's choice. They are running this game, and this is their decision. They're going to chase back to point. They're pulling back slightly now.
Yeah, I think that's what they were hoping. They were waiting for the 2 tanks from Turmoil to jump in, and then they pushed them to the left.
Yeah.
Or I guess it would be our right when we're looking at it. Yeah. But yeah, they pushed them on that turn because the DPS didn't stick with them and didn't give a good flank.
Strafology coming in. There's the Graviton Surge, but the shield's holding up.
1 wipe, 2 wipe, 3.
There's
4,
the ult
5.
from the Diva Bomb. Self-destruct, but the shields are up. Brig One Trick taking that hit. And
there's the team.
And it looks like it. It's really hard to make those Diva Bombs land, and when you do the self-destruct, you really got to be point on it. But that Graviton Surge, they're expecting it. They're waiting for that moment to happen. They know you've got one play as Diva in that moment, and they really had that counter of just that Reinhardt right up on it. Brig One Trick just having that shield ready to go. This is probably going to be the last push for Turmoil unless they're really able to hold it.
Yeah, they've got 5% to 3% to fight with. 2, I don't know. This is
but all
overtime.
4 on point, and they actually managed to turn over and capture by pushing them off point.
They got the disadvantage though.
Yeah, they're down. They're down. Strafology. She got taken out, and now you see. Oh, and there it goes. They lost their beast. There's 2 tanks down. That's it. I think that diva self-destruct was just to clean up. That's all it was, and there it goes.
A great push, but just
good
not
push,
enough.
Good effort, but not enough. And again, you got to wonder, if you look at this comp, it's the same thing. It's that classic goats, and the only times one trick brig with that big, I can only, yep, there it is. And there's that ult right into that Graviton Surge. And again, it's what we talked about, right? You go in with that ult, you go in with that collapsed ult, and, unless you're running goats, which they weren't, you can't counter it. You can't. There's no shield to cover them. There's no defense. Their Reinhardt was completely separate, and that was a strategic waste.
Absolutely.
They saw the moment where that Reinhardt charged, and they said, this is when we hit him. We hit him with the Graviton. We hit him with the self-destruct, and it clearly did a wipe. But Turmoil just unable to keep that damage rolling. They're just, that first cap was such a good point. And moving on now to our fourth map, Rialto. Yeah.
Final map.
I get so excited in the moment I forget to count.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I think we all do. Speaking of counting, you know who you can count on? Grandpa. Beaten Shen's grandpa is here in the chat.
I thought you were going to do
Beowulf.
Game Arena, and I thought you were going to do a plug. I thought that was going to be like a great plug.
Why would I plug? That's
the thing
for
that we're on?
shills, and I probably should do that on occasion.
Occasionally.
But,
Yeah.
But how often could you say, hey, my grandpa's in the chat, and he's supporting me?
Wait, is that...
No, not mine.
Oh.
But Beast Shen's grandpa's here in the chat saying nice hat and all that jazz.
And they always say that?
Someone in chat always says it's Shen's grandpa.
That's fine.
Oh.
I'm going with it.
Sure.
I'm going with it. Yeah. Hello, chat.
Dark Slice claiming, just so our team knows, they could not hear any game sounds.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
That's not me.
Uh-oh.
Although that very much could be us. We are
could
very
be.
loud human beings.
Yeah.
I apologize for that. We are very loud human beings.
We're a bunch of loudmouths.
I like how the restraint that it took for you not to curse.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something witty to put in instead, but
Cursing makes everything feel more witty.
it does.
Or
Gives you
keep it
that
clean.
dopamine release.
So Turmoil, they're not going to be able to win this match. They can still capture 1 point. It will help them out in the long run. But in all honesty, I don't know what they can do. I mean, OSU has been, they've been getting better, I will say, but OSU has just been countering everything that's being thrown their way, and a lot of it's just coming back to a comp that they know, and a comp that they've been playing, and a comp that the meta's been playing now for going on, 2 years. That's a long time, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And in all honesty, despite the nerfs to Diva, despite the nerfs to Armor, it looks like Goat still ain't broke. I don't know. I mean, we saw the Reaper play. Reaper really wasn't putting in a ton of damage, and he was doing what he's supposed to. He was sneaking around to the back line. He was making those drops, but it's not enough to shred a tank, especially when you got a Lucio on him, especially when you got a Brig. And you got to remember, if you got that spread heal with a Brig who's putting out damage, you're not taking anybody down. You're not taking
and I
anybody
think it's going to come down to, in between these two teams, I think it's just OSU is capitalizing upon those small advantages. Every time that one player sneaks away, every time that one player goes just a little bit too far, they're separating that player, they're targeting that player,
Right.
they're capitalizing on the minor stuff. And Turmoil seems to have to use bigger disadvantages in order to benefit themselves.
Sure, and it's all about game awareness. It's all about game awareness. Do you know where your teammate is in that moment? And especially when we're talking about DPS and healers, do you know where your tanks are? Do you know where your shields are? Do you know who's going to keep you alive in this moment? And in all honesty, I gotta wonder: Does Turmoil have that connectivity? Are they able to keep that conversation?
Do they have a coach?
Do they have a coach? Because I will say, that Reaper was out of place a couple of times.
Yeah.
He overextended himself, Reinhardt doesn't need to work hard against Reaper.
No, he shouldn't.
I mean, as much healing as Reaper's still getting now that he's getting 50% of that damage, a Reinhardt can still just keep swinging at him, and the rate of fire that he gets, I don't know that it's enough with a heal back to really take out a healed Reinhardt. I mean, it's a lot of health. It's 400 health to go through.
It's a lot. He's a big boy.
He's a biggin. He's a
He
big old...
eats, Chef Boyardee.
He makes my German heart sing. I will say that. I mained him for a while. When the game first dropped, I mained Reinhardt, and it was only because he was German, and because I'm horrible at shooters, and so for me it was very important to take a character who didn't actually have to aim. I mean, let's not lie, guys. Like, Reinhardt doesn't really need to aim. It's all about time management and shield management. And speaking of shield management, that's another... I know I got really aggressive on that.
Yeah, you did.
Speaking of shield management, that's another thing
Isn't
we got to talk about.
that's my shtick, getting needlessly angry at things.
But that's another thing we got to talk about, you know? Was Beast dropping that shield too much? Was he giving too many opportunities?
Early on he was. There was a lot of times where he was dropping the shield, looking, waiting, and then throwing that. It's too much. It's too much.
And you know, part of the strength when we talk about Reinhardt is his ability to peek. His ability to go into that third-person perspective, peek around those corners, keep his teammates aware. But he wasn't taking advantage of those corners, and it felt like a lot of time the damage that was coming out was just getting pushed through.
Oh, okay. So
we just got an update.
So Ashland versus Filthy Casuals. Ashland also just floored the Filthy Casuals.
4-0.
4-0. So I think what we're going to be really excited to see then is OSU versus Ashland.
I mean, that's the matchup I'm waiting for. I want to see. But you know, it's still early day, so let's not count our chickens before they hatch, as someone says.
Yeah.
I've never actually had someone.
We haven't said yet who all the teams are that are in this, have we?
Have we?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we have either.
So we've got 8 teams today.
As you've seen already, we've got Turmoil and OSU, Overwatch Scarlet. We're also rocking Ashland University and Filthy Casuals.
The Bunky Boys.
The Six.
The
Still a great
Armored Bear Cavalry and Team Pizza, who were the victors in the last tournament, although rumor has it
that there's been some roster changes.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that turns out.
So I'm excited to see Team Pizza
at some point.
At some point, he says.
At some point I want to see Team Pizza, but right now, all I want to see is... I love this.
Yeah.
Can we just... let's just...
This is way more
Guys,
interesting
you know
than
what?
the game.
Let's forget video games. Let's take a nice ride through the streets of Venice, shall we?
How much do you think this costs, to ride in a boat operated by a robot?
I gotta imagine there's no real money in this world, right?
Yeah.
Like, I gotta imagine that Overwatch...
Credits?
Like Overwatch has evolved to the point of like Star Trek, right? Like, there's no actual currency.
Well, unless, you don't live in the Federation. And then there's totally
currency. All right, let's get back to it as Turmoil's making that push on the Rialto, trying to capture that. Get that lovely little escort all the way going. And they're making a good point, getting all the way around this corner. And I will say, this is interesting. OSU not capitalizing on that choke point, really letting them get a surprising amount of distance before they dive in.
You have to wonder, though, are they getting a little too confident because they got so far already?
I mean, at this point, they're not necessarily going to lose this match, so it's not necessarily like they're risking anything, but it is interesting that they are allowing... This almost looks like a full first point cap.
I think it's going to be. And what this might make a difference is if they succeed in this round, which will not give them a victory, but if they succeed here, it will be a moral victory. It'll give them that little boost in the next game they go into because they'll know they do have the potential to beat OSU should they ever meet again.
Well, just from time management's sake, I'll tell you this much. I've been in a number of matches where I've just been excited because I stopped them before the first point because that meant my job was easier. So OSU letting them get to that first point, although I will say they are stopped at the 1.5 meters mark, which means they have not officially captured that point. The Graviton Surge going in, and still Turmoil unable to push that point. It looks like that may have been a well-schemed trap to get them into this choke point and hold them, although I will say it's getting ever closer that the 0.34 meters close as the self-destruct drops in with a beautiful headshot.
Absolutely
beautiful headshots coming from Peon.
I think this was a little bit of what I was talking about before is Maybe Turmoil's getting a little too confident getting pushed that far that fast, and now the point is getting pushed back.
Yep, and I gotta wonder, I will say, I mentioned it earlier, that first choke is a really nice, that first corner is a really nice choke, but this is a better choke. That arch is a really hard place to get past. The only way really to get around it is to circumvent it completely, and it looks like no one's really even able to get around that as OSU is just keeping the distance, just, keeping Turmoil at bay. Mighty Peon keeping those headshots coming, trying to keep that distance and just drop them one by one to help stagger their teams.
Yeah,
and there it is, man.
Left.
Minute 30, and they've got, Turmoil with 3 ults, but I don't know if it's enough to even capture that point.
And no real good way to use it. Looks like OSU is staying pretty well spread in the 3-dimensional space.
I mean, Turmoil's got the hammer down, so that maybe this is it. Maybe they make this big push. But I will say, Team OSU having that top ground, they're ready for that. They know that that's going to be the next launch. Ender's coming in, and there's the drop from Wrecking Ball as big one trick, but the hammer lands nothing, hits no one. And
there was really only one person to hit, and that was Wrecking Ball.
And in all honesty, I think they were panicking. I think big one trick just didn't have it in them.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, smartest.
Oh, you're right, smartest. Yeah, I think with about 30 seconds coming up on this team regroup here, I don't think it's going to be enough to push this payload even to the first spot.
Mighty Peon replacing just to keep that head sniper going. And there goes the sprays. I don't know, Respawn with his ult, he's just waiting for this moment. That's all he's doing. He's waiting for them to cluster up. He's waiting for it, and are we going to see it? Are we going to see that barrage?
I think this is the sign he's waiting for the call. I think he's waiting for someone to call it out.
That final mark. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's just going to let it overhang. I mean, he's getting kills. It's 100% on Strafology. Dropping him. There it is. There it is.
With
the
5
Zen.
seconds left, he activates.
And, the Transcendence was just not enough to save his team. It was too little for late from iCarryT. And at this point, it's just cleanup as OSU.
Nice pick off on the Tracer.
Man, they really had me scared, OSU, in that opening. They were able to keep that point so tight. And I mean, 0.34 meters. How much? If you're Turmoil, how much does that have to hurt?
I think that's got to hurt a lot, and I think you're right. I think that was the plan from OSU, was to, one, give them a little bit of confidence, let them feel like they were in control, and then launch that assault, that ambush.
And again, like I mentioned, that first corner, a lot of people use that as a good choke point, but there are easy ways around it.
Right.
Now, that being said, a lot of teams don't have the confidence to try and hold back, to wait to that second, right before the actual capture point. A lot of teams will want to push further in, but they didn't do that. OSU had faith in themselves, and confidence is a big part of this game. They knew they could stop it, even at 0.34 meters. They knew they could stop it at that choke point. They knew that arch was the stronger point, and they held back.
Yep.
They poked just to generate ult, but other than that, man, they were really on point when it came to managing their team and managing that point. They stopped anyone from getting around them. So,
excuse me, sir, you have the ship up. The interesting thing.
Yeah, come on, let's.
Oh, so relaxing.
Isn't it? I just need a nice glass of red wine.
Mm-hmm. A little baguette, some cheese.
Oh God, brie.
Oh,
brie.
Melted Gouda.
Melted Gouda is good. Although I will say, a nice bruschetta.
Yeah, okay.
Nice bruschetta, a little bit of brie.
Wait,
and a nice
you mean
baguette.
prosciutto?
Prosciutto. What I say?
Prosciutto. You said prosciutta?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
That's not.
It's probably.
Oh
something
yeah, there's
that
a
we
match
just
going
don't
on.
know.
All right.
Get back to work. Stop talking about food.
Yeah. Although I am very hungry.
Was that a hog? I see a piggy.
Do we have a road hog?
We got a piggy.
Strafology. She is bold and brave, going with the big pig. Now notice this. OSU put Turmoil into a point where they needed to use that first choke. Remember talking about that earlier choke? OSU has put Turmoil in a place where they had to make that first attack and had to get close up.
And it's not mattering.
It is not doing enough, even with 3 tanks. It's OSU going against their grain. We're not seeing goats. We're not seeing the 3 tank comp. We're seeing the 2 DPS, 2 healer, the 2-2-2. versus Turmoil rocking that 3 tanks, trying to keep that live. And I carried the T, dropping the ult, but it's not able to do anything. And, you know.
Now, it's something that I almost missed. I don't know if you saw it either, but what OSU was doing there was really interesting. They were waiting for individual members of Turmoil to separate themselves, and they were just absolutely enclosing them, circling them, and just melting them away.
And again, it's what we talked about before. It's about good communication. Are you calling out when, you know, when those moments happen? Are you calling out when the enemy ults? Are you calling out when Respawn drops the barrage down and cleans off that point? And I don't know that they're going to have enough time to get on point, although Strafology switching to that Tracer is a good choice to try and at least just stall out, along with low money, still on that Lucio, keeping it up. There's the self-destruct. It is not going to get any hits, but it is going to clear the point, which is really important for them. But OSU, you know, OSU just keeping on the point, just trying to hold it as long. Turmoil's doing a good job of keeping the distance. And there it is. There's the cheese. See it from the hamster. Beast is doing it. The wraparound. Locking onto that escort and just swinging as much as he can just to try and bop everyone away.
Playing tetherball. What movie was that in? Was that, oh, crud. What was that movie with the tetherball and the guy that wanted the tater tots?
I literally have no clue what you're talking about.
Someone's going to get it.
Someone in chat, let us know.
Someone, yeah.
Turmoil able to keep that push.
Napoleon Dynamite.
There you go.
Napoleon Dynamite.
That was so worth our time.
Absolutely.
Turmoil able to hold the point. I will say, they're able to hold it. I gotta wonder, minute left. OSU, they've really only got a couple pushes left, maybe 1, 2. And when it comes to ults, they're very close. They've almost got their full Mercy Valkyrie. They've got the self-destruct. They've got the minefield coming up very soon. They've got the barrage. You know, Turmoil really only have the coalescence and the tracer bomb from Strafology. So I gotta wonder, you know, what is OSU's plan in here? Or are they just letting them have it?
It might just be that they're letting them have it. I mean, this match is inconsequential. They could just be taking it easy at this point.
I mean, they've already won the match, so maybe they're just having fun, which is the reason we're all here.
Wait, games are for fun?
No, they're for extremely yelling at other people. But Turmoil's doing a good job, I will say. Like, I don't want to throw this away. Turmoil's putting in a good game. They're keeping their distance. They're keeping the poke. They're isolating a little bit, not necessarily as strongly as they could have earlier on, but they are doing a good job of keeping that distance. They're holding on their ult. Strafology switching. I will say this. Strafology is a true blue flex. I don't think Strafology is stayed a hero for more than like 3 minutes. And she's putting in work, just doing a true blue flex just to try and hold that point. And I get it, man. High Noon is a good ult. Not really. It's actually one of the worst ults in the game. It is.
Oh.
I'm being honest, man.
Oh.
Like, it is not the strongest ult. And there it is, OSU cleaning that point. And there it is, the third cap. And there goes. Good.
GG.
Good game.
Good game.
Good game.
Well
good game.
played.
Well played. There goes the GGs. Brig one trick with that ult. Gotta love the hamster ult. Gotta love the hamster play of the game.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the thing people often forget. One of the hamster's strong points is getting into those back lines. You want to talk about the dive ult. You want to talk about the dive character. That is what he is good for. He has that mobility, he has that speed, and he has the ability to pop that shield. What's he do? Dive in, get surrounded, pop his shield, and he's good to go. So you got to remember, you know, and like I said, everyone talked about the death of goats, but I will say this, with that nerf 2 armor, I genuinely hope, mostly because he's really fun to play and really fun to watch, I genuinely hope we see a lot more Wrecking Ball here in the future.
Yes, having more hyperactive mice is very important.
Genetically modified hyperactive.
Genetically micro...
All right, and with that, we're going to take a 15-minute break. We will be back for more here at Game Arena, this Overwatch tournament. We will be back in just a few.
Wait, we get a break?
Yeah, apparently they